Welcome to day 23 of your mindful experiment. Today, you'll participate in a short visualization followed by a short discussion to understand how the brain actually operates when faced with change. We'll talk a little bit more about neuroplasticity, and this will lead to you giving yourself both a little bit of grace around a change you are making and an action step. This very well may relate to your overall intention that you have set for this experiment. Let's begin with the visualization. Close your eyes. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. Imagine a big grassy field. The grass is about up to your knees. Imagine on one side of the grassy field is a school, and on the other side is a neighborhood. Well, the fastest route from the neighborhood to the school is through this grassy field. So every day, the parents and the kids walk through this grassy field to get to school from the neighborhood. And they always take the same exact path, single file. So just one path through the grassy field. And they travel this one path day in, day out, week in, week out, month after month. So imagine now how this one pathway in the grass looks when it's been traveled week after week, month after month. How does it look? Yeah, that grass is completely worn down. It has made a path in the grass that is easy to travel. So that's exactly the pathways that are created in your brain when you form a new habit, because those neurons that are firing up together and playing together are connecting and creating this pathway that becomes easier and easier the more repetitive it becomes. Now imagine one day one of the kids says, "Let's walk a different way in the grass." Well, they decide to go now all the way to the left of the field, and now the grass has grown up to like the waist, your waist. So imagine this grass even taller. And now, when they first travel through this grass, it's like they're stomping through. The grass is itching them. They're moving a little bit slower because the grass is so tall. And can you imagine that it would be definitely a lot easier to go to this worn path, but they're determined to take this new path. So they trudge through this new path day in, day out, week after week, month after month. What happens now to this new path? Yeah, it's now a well-worn path. You have new neurons that are playing together. This pathway is now well paved. It's easy to travel because it's been months. The grass is worn down. You've created a new pathway, a new neuro pathway for our symbolism in the brain. And now look over at that other path that used to be taken. What has happened there? Is it still worn down? No, the grass has grown over it. Okay, because you've made a change. You're not traveling that way anymore. Those neurons are not firing and wiring and playing together anymore. You have a new pathway. So I want you to see that and sit with that for a moment. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, open your eyes. So that little visualization is from the same book we used yesterday, the Mindfulness Skills Workbook. I'll put the reference in the comments below once again. Let's have a brief discussion. Relate this to either your intention that you set for this experiment or another change you're making. For example, let's say somebody decides, I am going to wake up and meditate every morning for 10 minutes versus hitting my snooze button for 10 minutes. Well, obviously, hitting the snooze button, if they've been doing that for years, that's a well-worn pathway in the brain. Now they're trying to trudge through the grassy field to meditate instead. And at the beginning, it's like exciting, right? I'm going to start meditating. I'm so exciting. So we've got that motivation to tread through the grass. But maybe after 4 or 5 days, it's still hard, right? You haven't really formed those new pathways, those new neurons yet. So you're like, let me just go over to the snooze button or this well worn path And this is just easier, right? The neurons are already playing together. I wanted to explain that because that's why when you maybe start something for a week, after a week or so, it's just like it's so easy to go back. So you can give yourself a little grace here and a little break and some kindness of why we want to go back to the old way, because those neural pathways are like, this is easier, come on. But if we stick with it, we'll eventually have that well worn pathway. Okay. And then that other old way of being, the snooze button, that grass will grow up. Those neurons won't play together. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. And the question is, how can you, for comments, how can you relate this visualization of the grass field, symbolic for creating new pathways in your brain, to your intention or your prediction that you set for this whole experiment? Have you had a day where you're like, I just don't want to do this today, or whatever, and not necessarily the experiment, but whatever the intention was? So meditating instead of snoozing. So take a moment, maybe talk about a day where it was a little hard, and can you give yourself a little bit of grace and understanding? And then can you create one action step for how you can come back to the prediction, the intention, the change? Thank you for playing. I'll see you tomorrow.